Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there, it's Gemma, and this is episode 274 of the new series of the Cognitive Podcast. I'm going to try not to talk really fast because I am getting this one into digital late. It is 3:13 p.m. on February 27th, 2026. I've already got material backed up for episode 275. That's how slow I've been this week. It's been very hectic, but it always is. I'm not sure what makes it hectic at this phase in my life. It's weird because I never remember being quite this busy before, even though I work from home. Go figure. Meanwhile, in the Warm Thanks department. Okay, Prairie Poet, thank you for your kind comments about my finished sweater. I really appreciate that. And I'm sorry about the whole thing with my volume varying. What's really sad is I have no idea why that's happening. I actually have moved to keeping the recorder stationary on my desk because I'm trying to avoid that. So I'm really mystified why it's doing that. But yes, I have noticed it as well. And I try not to swing around in my chair. Having said that, I am not one to sit still for long periods of time. Back in the days when I used to teach, I was all over the room when I was lecturing because I had such a hard time standing behind a podium. So I fear that tradition carries on. But anyway, thanks though. It's good to hear your voice too. Chris, Dr. Gemma, I'm about to one-up your sardine toast sandwich. And she then submits the recipe that is in the show notes for sardine pizza toast. I have to take a deep breath. I don't like sardines in tomato. I have tried that, and it is available here, Chris. I think the sauce therein is usually, shall we say, something that should be apologized for. And then you say, put a slice of tasty cheese on top and grill. And you say, do you guys have tasty cheese? No, but I suspect it would be similar to what we call American cheese, which is this weird amorphous thing that we don't want to export to the rest of the world, to be completely honest. That's not Velveeta, which is an abomination before the Lord and has been exported. American cheese is its own weird plasticine creation. At any rate, I'm sitting in my chair trying to imagine putting pizza toppings on sardines. Well, I think we can agree that was an absolute fail. In the meantime, thank you to all my listeners. Thank you, Chris. I am breathless. But thank you also to all my listeners, as always, and to my communities on Finch, on Reddit, and on the ground in the Santa Clarita Valley and the Antelope Valley, as well as to this group of listeners. As you can see, my birds in Finch, they were together in pajamas in the Alps a few days ago. They got out of Wonderland. I think I may have said this last episode, which had a very buggy program. They did both complete it. They're very happy. They have their rabbit ears to prove it. But now they're in the Alps. Things are better. Cognitive Fiber Retreat 12. There is an information thread. I talked about this last week. There is a link in the show notes. No big news there because I've been a little hectic, so I haven't been working on that. But all the information is there in the show notes. And of course, you know, your comments are always welcome. And you can comment on the show notes. Coincidentally, they are at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. And of course, over on our group on Ravelry. All the information is there. What's on my hooks and needles, you say? I have finished absolutely nothing, but I have been very productive with knitting. I have recently discovered, shall we say, a new knitting time in my life, and someday I'll talk about it, probably when I'm retired. But at any rate, I've been getting a huge amount of knitting done because really I just want to do popcorn knitting right now. I'm really just doing the brainless stuff. Now I have several socks to finish. I do not suffer from one sock syndrome or second sock syndrome or single sock syndrome or whatever we're calling it this week. But I finished that first sock, and you may remember I was using 2 skeins of yarn and seeing if I can get 3 pairs or 2.5 pairs out of them. So I'm still in that experiment, but I've put that to the side because that is really summer knitting. The kind of thing I do when I don't want to carry around a big hot sweater and have that flopping around in my lap. So I haven't finished the other sock. In fact, I haven't started the second sock, which is unusual for me. But a lot of stuff in progress. The stash toss is still at 16 skeins in, 34 skeins out since, believe it or not, January 1st. I almost gave in and bought some extra Malabrigo Rios in the colorway Water Green, which takes me to the topic of vestuary. It is February, and I was talking about my Romule sweater, which of course was the bottom-up cocoa-colored Strange Brew pattern that came out, if I do say so myself, so well. And I thought, it is February. I should go back to vestuary. So I went back to the vestuary project, which was me recouping the Malabrigo Rios yarn in the colorway Water Green from a vest I made last year where the tension just didn't make me happy across the chest. So as you may recall, I am doing steeking on it as an experiment. And I had bought extra yarn and then realized I could actually have made a full-on sweater with this colorway instead of making the vest. But I felt like the yarn was a little bit beat up after its experiences, so I stuck with the vest. But I'm going to have some extra yarn, and I almost today bought a few more skeins and said we'll make it into a full-blown sweater next year. I did not because I have so many sweaters worth of yarn at this point that I don't really want to do that. But in the meantime, vestuary, I am almost there. I am about 8 inches into the armholes. When you get to 9, you start shaping the top, and at this point, I must figure out how I'm going to shape the neckline. This shouldn't be too hard, but I'm having a hard time finding a model of a neckline. Now, I've been using the vest from Ann Budd's Classic, the Knitter's Handy Book of Patterns, and I can't find my hard copy of it, which is driving me nuts. I have bought this thing like 4 times because I've lost it or given it away. I thought I last saw it in my lair, but no. So I did the thing you do. I went to Anna's archive because I've bought the book so many times. At this point, I don't feel like I'm doing anything evil by just downloading a PDF of it from Anna's. And that's what they have, one PDF. It's in pretty good shape. So I did download it, and I am currently, as we speak, putting it on my Google Drive, putting it on my Remarkable. I just mailed it to my Kindle. I am not losing this thing again because I really need to look at the page about the neckline for the crew neck sweaters or jumpers. So that's kind of where we're going, that I have to finish working on the armholes while shaping the crew neck. I really don't see this as any kind of crisis. To me, it's kind of do the back of the sweater again. And we'll see, but I thought I finally have to keep this thing in my digital collection because I've lost it so many times. I also want to say I take these PDFs, I put them on my Remarkable, and I go through and I mark them up and save it with the markings for my size. One of the tricks I have learned then is to take a screenshot of that. I have my Remarkable on my desktop computer. There's an app there to play it there, to play the app there. And I will bring up the image and I will screenshot it. And then I will send it around to all my devices. So when I'm sitting on a train, I have the page that has the marked up stuff for how I do my particular size of something. This works very well and I recommend it. In the meantime, I thought you all might wonder, what do my steeks look like at this point? Now, as I record this, I'm quite a ways farther than I was when I took the photo. But you can see the photo. There is the steek. At the bottom of it, where I started the steek, there are the live stitches, and they're on a stitch holder that you can see partly hanging off there. And there's a little gap, and then there's the actual steek work. So you can see going up the sides, the purl stitches that mark the edge so that when I'm cutting, I'll be able to find it easily. Then at the very top, you can see my circular needles, the cable going through. And you can also see that I have ring markers there. Now, I don't need them there. I could use the purl stitches as a guide. But I want to be really careful to make sure that I'm preserving the steek. So I not only am using purl stitches, and that leaves, as you can see, the trail going up the vest for the armhole steek. But when I'm knitting, I want to be really careful not to miss the steek, not to put in just straight stockinette stitching. So you can see I have the ring markers as well. So I thought you might want to see that. So Gemma, now that you're into the project, how many times have you thought of pulling it out, giving up, and doing something else with that yarn? Oh, a million. I mean, I could easily just run my needles through the row where those live stitches are hanging on the stitch marker and call it a bottom-up sweater, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to learn to steek. Also, it's really hard when you're learning this. It's not hard at all. This is an incredibly easy technique, as everybody will tell you. I remember Jasmine Knitmore talking about this on their podcast. Everybody who discovers steeking really loves it. Like once you get it, you got it, and it's very straightforward. But it's intimidating the first time, she said, breaking into a sweat even as she speaks. So you're going to think about pulling it out, but it's really a great thing to learn. What you can't tell, when I knit one of these vests, and I've knit like 9 of them with this pattern, I love this pattern, you know, you knit in the round and you get up to the bottom of the armhole. Then you do the things you do, put everything on, you know, stitch holders, and then you just knit the front, back and forth, you knit the back and forth, then you knit the front, back and forth, you know, leaving the space for the V-neck and all that stuff. And it's really annoying. I always bog down when I get to the front of these vests, and they sit on my needles for a few weeks, if not a few months. And then you do it, and you realize how glad you are that you did it and how great the vest is, which is why I keep making them. What you miss when you steek is that period of being hung up, of saying, oh, I've got the back, I've got the round part, but now I've got to go do the front, and you got to, you know, figure out how to do that V-neck shaping, and you kind of miss that when you're steeking because you're just doing the same thing. You do the whole bottom, and then you're going to do another 9 inches, except you do a little shaping along the edges of the steeks to make sure that you're going to have a shaped armhole when you're finished. So it's hard to measure, is this easier than the other way? Because right now it's not, because I'm teaching myself the whole steeking thing and working out the logic of it. And the next part of what I'm teaching myself is how to finish the armhole and do the neckline. Now, I'm not doing a V-neck on this one, but that's okay. To me, it's just do the back. Do 2 pieces exactly the way you would do the back. That's pretty much what I think is going on here. But there's also a guide to shape it according to another sweater pattern in the same book. So I'm going to sit down, hopefully this weekend, and do that research. However, I'm not worried about this. This is not a hard thing. After I do that, I will actually do the crochet or sew down the edges to keep them from unraveling, and then I will do the cut. And then I will turn those edges under and probably tack them down somehow. I haven't even done that part of the research. All I'm up to right now is what I'm telling you. What I think you have to hold in mind, it always sounds so complicated when people talk about it. So far in practice, it's been very easy and very straightforward. And so I suspect I have found me a new way to make vests. My next vest, will I steek a V-neck? We'll find out. Meanwhile, I am working on the Prawn Agnes. This is an Agnes sweater in the beautiful yarn that is from Oink Pigments. This is her bulky weight. Upig or Umpig, I can't remember how you pronounce it. And this is in Prawn But Not Forgotten. But I got to the bottom of it and was running out of Prawn But Not Forgotten. So I picked up a skein of the beautiful Ovary Actions, same yarn. And I did a little bit of a fade, and then the ribbing on the bottom will be that Ovary Action. It is not a perfect match, but it's a pretty good match. And I'm pretty happy because if I don't like this part, number one, ripping it out wouldn't be that hard and getting more of the Prawn But Not Forgotten. But I'm okay because it's down at my waistline. And my waistline is fine. If that draws your eyes to my waistline, I'm great. And so when I finish that, I will then pick up the arms. I still have 2 full skeins of the original prawn color to do the arms with. We'll see how far I get on the first arm, if I'm going to need to again do the fade into the Ovary Action. Nonetheless, it's a handsome sweater. It's going very quickly, and I'm enjoying it immensely. You always forget how fast bulky sweaters can go, which is good because I've got yarn for at least one more of them. Meanwhile, I continue on the Coral Strange Brew. I am on the body. I think I've got about 10 or 11 inches of it. I may have more than that now for the 19 I want to get. So that's where all the knitting is, in case you were all holding your breath. No spinning right now, and really, oh shoot, my exercise has been walking around in LA. This weekend I have the Mardi Gras Madness coming up, but I have pulled my lower back on the right side, and I'm thinking I don't want to go out and pound that for 3 miles, which is hard because my next race after that is not till June, but I might need that time to get my back sorted out. This is really not bad. It's more of a muscle thing, and to get myself back in condition. However, my trade, we are a community, and when we serve the good of the community, we are serving the good of the individual. I was trying to think, what do I do instead of the Mardi Gras Madness? Now, it's a fundraiser for a local students running group, so that's good. I've paid into that. But I thought, no, I still feel like I should do something. So I signed up to donate blood with the Red Cross up in Palmdale on, I think, a week after, on March 8th. Because I could have done it on March 1st, but I couldn't bear the idea of missing the train. I've had such a busy week. I need as much time in LA on the trains as I can get this weekend. Just believe me. So I'll let you know how that goes, but that's the next adventure. And I skipped a strategy, so let me tell you this strategy. The strategy is very straightforward this week. No wonder I skipped it. The strategy was brought home by my son. We have 3 people living together, 3 adults. And the strategy is really about how are you keeping everyone on track when you've got this many people in motion, all with jobs or school, and a lot of work to do and a lot of things to keep under control. And it's easy just to throw stuff around and not keep the place picked up and all that. And so I was thinking this week that the strategy really should be something very hands-on this week about how do you keep everybody on track. And I'm just going to give you the Cog-Bee version that has worked really well for us. And what I would say is it's called a calendar. But it's 2 types of calendar. So let me give you my 2 calendars. Calendar number 1. We went to Lowe's Hardware, these many years ago. And on the first aisle, they had these wonderful whiteboards that were already divided to look like a month's calendar. I got 2 of them, plus the dry erase markers. They have been on our walls for easily 12 years now. They are on a common wall that is in a doorway between our dining room and our living room. And it is the family calendar. And I put it up, and I took my dry erase and numbered all the days and made sure the month was clearly displayed. And then I started using it. I did not ask permission. I did not talk to anyone else. I did this at the time I was injured while working at the prison, and I did it originally to give myself something to look forward to, that the calendar was a way of keeping myself oriented to reality when I was off work for workers' compensation, and reminding myself that I had good things to look forward to. But over time, it became a family calendar. So we mark everybody's vacation. We mark when my kid was in school, when he had time off, when we were going places. Now, we don't all use it the same. I use it really routinely. I always mark all my upcoming stuff on it so the family knows what I'm doing. The boys don't always want to tell me what they're doing. My husband's lousy at it. He does not mark his events on it, but he will occasionally arm twist my son into marking my son's events on it. It is very helpful when they do this, but they are much more sporadic than I am. Nonetheless, I do recommend the Huge Family Calendar. I did find there was a site online where they will print you a giant calendar for the year. It comes in monthly segments and you've got 31 days per month or as needed. But I mean, this is how important this is, that if you have more than one adult in the household and you're both working or all of you are working or have schedules, this is a kind of courtesy thing. That instead of nagging people, do you realize I have next week off? Do you realize I have spring break? Whatever. You just put up one calendar and you mark it up. And you can do that several ways. I'm sort of the goddess of the calendar. I tend to go in and mark everybody's stuff that I know of, just to help keep myself on track. But in our household, it's pretty loosely organized. Anybody can go up and mark. I keep a dry erase pen on the top of the calendar so anybody can mark it. But in your household, you can have the household calendar deity who goes in and does all the marking as that person hears about events. And so everybody goes to that person and says, don't forget to mark this on the calendar. You can do it that way, or you can give everybody authority to mark the calendar. But that is one of the ways you keep your household on track, is everybody can see where everybody else is. It's not the most beautiful piece of scenery in a house to have, but it's incredibly valuable in my experience. It also helps your mood. If you're feeling down, you look at the calendar and you can see what you have to look forward to, what's coming up. Now, another thing you do to keep everybody on track is you develop the schedule of certain events in the house. So I came home for the quarantine, and I realized my husband and son were supposed to handle the household stuff while I was driving 2 hours total every day and then seeing a whole bunch of patients. And really they weren't, because they were overwhelmed too. So I came home and I found that we were not doing well on the sheets. They were not all that clean and it was getting a little bit horrifying. So I started a routine of Saturday morning, we wash all the sheets. We strip the beds and we wash the sheets. And my goal originally was just get all the sheets clean. Just get a regular routine. And what happened was we realized the shortages in sheets. And so I eventually bought really nice sheets for every bed. I bought flannel sheets, 2 sets per bed, and 2 sets of cotton sheets per bed. And we started using those. And the improvement in bed cleanliness was outrageous. I don't want to get gross about this, but I had not realized that we had gnats around the house. Yeah, I suspect they were living there, that this was not working. If you don't keep the beds clean, you can't keep the rest of the place unbuggy. Okay, so I don't mean to be gross, but I think that may have influenced the bug population in the house. When you live on a farm, bugs are a thing because you have animals, you have hay, and you have scooping the poop all the time. So we may be more prone to small bugs than anyone else just based on where we live, but it really helped to just get the sheet hygiene cleaned up. That was 6 years ago. We're doing great now with that. And that also encouraged me to upgrade all the bedding and to work on a routine of once every season, all the bedding gets thoroughly washed just to make sure. Now, we're washing in between to keep up or if something looks like it needs it. But there is a minimum of once every 3 months, everything goes through the laundry to make sure that that's going well too. And that includes curtains and draperies and blind maintenance. Okay, and having said that, once we started doing that, Saturday is laundry for the sheets, the boys really got it. And also, by the way, we upgraded mattresses, we put covers on, we did all sorts of stuff. Because once you're conscious of this, you realize this is a maintenance thing And I think it's one of those silent bits of maintenance, the whole bedding thing. Okay, and so then we gradually morphed to Friday is Towels Day. Now we divide the towels because we were just having days where we woke up and there were no dry towels around because somebody forgot to put them in the dryer. That's often me. So, we have Wednesday towels, the brown set and the blue set are Friday. So what has happened is everybody got into this habit that we know on Wednesday we leave the washer clear because we're going to be throwing in the brown towels. And on Friday, the blue towels. And on Saturday, the sheets. And we know Saturday afternoon, somebody's going to go around making the beds. It's really quite surprising. The boys both do that really without any kind of issue at all. I really kind of admire them for this. I hate making beds, can you tell? Okay, and so this led to other routines, like the Roombas, as a default, if they don't get cleaned any other day, they get cleaned Sunday mornings. And everybody kind of knows that the Roombas are going to be cleaned Sunday mornings, and they will be wandering the house doing their thing. So what I'm saying is you create a very basic list of here is the way we do our common stuff, the sheets, the towels, and you keep that schedule and you train everybody to be on that schedule. And it makes the rest of the world really easy. So organizing your basic household stuff when you have more than one adult in the house, you have the public calendar, and then you have the basic routine of how things get cleaned every week. And that really does an enormous amount to keep things on track. Having said that, let's go on to the fluffy books. Well, it's been a great time in the fluffy books. I did finish the last book that I have in the Kamigawa Food Detectives, and I got the name right too, which is nice. That was the first book in the series. You can read them in any order, and I did. Then I was listening to The Cat Who Saved the Library, which is the sequel to another book I read recently, The Cat Who Saved Books. Both of these books, both of the cat books, I didn't like them for about the first half, but I stayed with them because they're just unique and interesting. And they're very smart, they're very philosophical, they're very discussion and exposition heavy. Not a lot of action, but I would tell you they are very interesting. They are these sort of philosophical narratives about what role books and storytelling play in our lives. And I do recommend them. I think they're very thoughtful, intelligent books. The Cat Who Saved the Library is a little bit on the edge of painful because the author is talking about capitalism and imagination and greed and reading. It's a very, very smart, interesting set of connections. Meanwhile, I also have been reading The Retired Assassin's Guide to Orchid Hunting. I have only one thing to say about that. I signed up for her follow list and her newsletter, and I am living for the third book in that series. I just think these things are amazing. Totally fooled me at the end. Just fabulous reads. Something I really like. You may remember I put the link in the show notes for the book, that Stacy Jedi Mom brought to CFR 11.5 for collecting her Doodle Knits cards, which are the same size as Pokemon cards. I got mine. I got my first one. And I filled it. I didn't think I had that many. It was for 400 slots. I do. And I have extra. So even as we speak, the second book arrived last night. And I will be filling that, and I will talk about it more. But you can see a picture of the book, both open and closed. I don't like the book. I insanely love the book. It is so great to have those cards off and organized. Now, I will tell you, 400 cards. I just shoved them in. I really didn't organize them. What I did was I took each set and just put them in. So the first set are the basic set. And yes, I'm going to say it again. If you're buying the cards for Doodle Knits, for the love of heaven, get the basic set. You will find repeats in the other sets from the basic set. The basic set is 200 cards and you won it. It is basic graphics. It is some seasonal stuff. It is very worth it. If you buy no other Doodle Knits deck, buy the 200 card basic deck. There are so many repeats after that, you probably could get everything you need right out of those 200, to be brutally honest. But Stacy and then Jasmine Nipmore both told me with unholy glee how they're collecting, and I gave in. I thought, look, I could be using meth. I could be eating soccer tort and killing myself with diabetes. This is my vice. Not bad. So there are the pictures, open and closed, respectively. And I really like the Fidelity card collecting books. I'm sure you can get cheaper versions, but these were, I think, $26. I quite like them for what they are. And I still carry the link for my bundle of resistance patterns for ice. And these are knitted and crocheted. And I have the links that you can donate to the cause to help those people impacted by ice, and also donate to the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. And I have the link to Crafters Helping Minnesota. And I still have the back episodes on Proton. This will be hopefully the last week where you can get episodes 151 to 200 of this current new series. Put a lid on it. Well, there has been tea tasting, and there has been bread. The tea tastings, maybe tastings isn't the right word. I should probably call it tea swilling. But this week I have been drinking through my decaf No Obligations Black. And let me tell you what that actually is. You can probably hear me typing it in the background because I forgot to add this in, so I'm going to do it right now. This is decaf black tea, rooibos tea, cinnamon, orange peel, cocoa nibs, calendula, hazelnut, almond, and vanilla essences. So yeah, if you're allergic to hazelnut or almond, yeah. But I'm really enjoying this. Believe it or not, this is that kind of fruity black tea I've always wanted, except it isn't cinnamony orangey. It's sort of well-rounded. Now I'm looking at it, it is cinnamony orangey. I think that the essences, the hazelnut and almond and vanilla essences, are balancing it out. So it has a sort of light citrus taste and a fruity taste, and yet I don't feel like I'm drowning in orange. And I really quite like this stuff. So I'm going to recommend it. I have no idea where I got this. I don't remember if it was in one of the previous Advent calendars or what, but I have been drinking it like it's going out of style. So I'm going to recommend the Decaf No Obligations Black this week from Plum Deluxe. In the blather. On Saturday, the beloved son and I decided to go back to the Museum of Modern Art in LA County. This is on Wilshire Boulevard. And let me think. You take the train down to LA Union, and then you take the underground, and I cannot remember which line it is. It might be D as in dog. I think it is. And it goes westward, basically along Wilshire Boulevard. It stops not far down at Wilshire and Western. So you have to get off it and you take one of the buses that goes further westward on Wilshire. The good news is they are putting in more stops. They're going to extend the underground. So this is going to be incredibly easy. One stop is right in front of this huge cluster of museums that you really want to go to if you're in LA. One is the Peterson Museum. It's automotive and mechanics. Across the street, you have the Academy Museum of the Motion Picture Arts. And next to that, you've got, I think it's MoCA, Museum of Contemporary Art, which is what I went to see with my son. And a little further down Wilshire, heading back towards the center of the city, you also have the La Brea Tar Pits. And if you walk a mile to the north, you end up at the Grove, or better yet, you can catch the bus up Fairfax. I believe it's a 217 bus. So this is an amazingly accessible, easy place to go, except it takes a bit of time because of the switch from the underground to a bus. If you look in the show notes, you'll see a picture of me sitting on the train, and I took the picture because it was cold up here in the desert, And it was warm down in the city. So you can see me sitting there in my lovely sweater, hand knitted, of course. And I had brought my cowl with me. And this is one of the infamous CFR cowls where I think it's Grandma's cowl or Nona's cowl or one of the non-English words for grandmother. I think it's Nona's cowl, where you just crochet it. And you just crochet a big loop. And you just keep changing colors to use up all your scraps. And I made like 9 of these things. And so I'm wearing one of them. I've given most of them away at this point. I'm wearing one. And I just whipped it out, stuck it around my neck, didn't know what it looked like. I'm sitting on the train. I looked at myself on my camera and said, good heavens, it looked like I planned that. At the same time, you can see my favorite displays from Mocha. There is a room there that looks like a laundromat, and I wasn't interested till I saw the names of the detergents, and I leave you to look at the show notes. There was also a beautiful display of weaving from an immigrant artist from South America. I don't know if it's South America or Central America, but it's just fantastic, and I didn't want to take the whole picture without, actually buying the postcard or something. But I could not resist the band of weaving at the bottom and then the band of the little dolls. So you can see that, and I did not include the artist's name, which I'm kicking myself for. But you can also see my favorite thing at this whole museum. It was the squirrel. This is by Merritt Oppenheim, and it's just a found object sculpture. You must look at the show notes. My other favorite thing was by an artist, I think she's Russian, and it is a religious composition called The Archangel Michael. I loved it because I looked at it. It has a flying horse. I happen to love flying horses. But I looked at it too and said, a woman made that. That you can look at it and say it is a feminine composition. I can't explain that well, but every time I look at it, as I'm looking at it now, it is reaffirmed. So, oops, that's my bell for 10 minutes to my next patient, kids. Anyway, there it is, the Archangel Michael, and I really quite like that vision of the angel. What I really learned at the Museum of Contemporary Art is how I must go back, because I really only got to partly explore 2 floors of it, and it's huge and all over the place. All the warnings. So I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, we did have lunch again at Cheesecake Factory at the Grove. My advice to you, don't go there. It is too crowded. It is a great thing. Cheesecake Factory, if you're going to go to a chain restaurant, it's one of the better ones. Not at the Grove. It is so overwhelming. It is so crowded, and the service is not up to their usual standard, but we had fun. Now, Sunday, I just needed train time of my own. I got on the train up at Vincent Grade and rode it for an hour and got down to Newhall, which is still on our side of the pass that leads to the San Fernando Valley. So I was still in the Santa Clarita Valley. And I suddenly said, I must get off this train and explore Newhall without a car. So I went out, and I had a great time. And right in front of the train station, you can catch the bus. The bus took me right to the Barnes & Noble. I walked into B&N, and as I did, there was an explosion behind me in an intersection. It was an underground pipe that blew. I turned around and saw fire trucks and police cars and didn't know what it was. I went into Barnes & Noble, and the lights went out. Then they came back on because they have a generator, but that did not save their cash tills. They could not access those computers. So I used the restroom, and I walked 4/10 of a mile down the road to Kisho Sushi, which I've known for many years and loved. I went into Kisho, their lights were on, so I sat in a lovely corner facing towards the front, and you can see the picture of what Kisho Sushi looks like when the lights go out, because they went out too. I sat in pitch black in this corner. Nobody realized I was there, but fortunately I had gotten the exceptionally gorgeous bento box that you can see in the picture there, which was 2 orders of sashimi and some vegetable and a little bit of shrimp tempura. It was fabulous. I've never enjoyed a dinner in the dark so much. I used the light on my phone, and meanwhile I read as I ate with the Kindle app on my phone, so all was good. And you can also see those white China roses. I could not resist them. They were blooming. They were all over my path as I walked towards Kisho Sushi. So I just had a great day. I got off at Newhall. I went back to Barnes & Noble, bought a puzzle, which I had a fabulous time with, and then realized there's a bus stop right in front of Barnes & Noble. And I took the bus from there to the Santa Clarita station, which is one stop closer to the one I'd gotten on at in Acton grade. And I picked up a train there, and my thanks to the lovely sheriffs who were there, we had a person there who was actively psychotic for whatever reason. They had been ejected from a previous train, and they were kind of walking around the place trying to scare people, which really bothered me. They were psychotic. I'm just going to say this. I know my job. But they were realizing that we were staying away from them, so they started doing things. And I want to thank those two sheriffs. I really want to thank them because they were not aggressive with that person. They simply set clear boundaries. You can go this far, but you're not crossing any further. They kept them from getting on a train. They really did a great job. And I also was impressed because this week I learned, when I was at a train station downtown, Metrolink, instead of going after the homeless people who throng around those lovely warm stations underground that must be great in cold weather, they've put in staff to help the homeless people get to safety, food, and resources. This is the LA I love. This is why I pay my taxes. Meanwhile, you can see all the usual links for the LGBTQIA lifelines, for the resources around ICE. You can see the links to my favorite resources that I use in knitting and crocheting. And you can see in my upcoming calendar. And that brings us down to Minerva getting the last word. So I was reviewing the Ring videos for the last few weeks, and I happened onto the videos from the Cat Cam that I picked up during my time away from home for the weekend of CFR 11.5. And what I discovered is Minerva knows some pretty interesting stuff. I watched her at the Cat Cam, and I noticed that, and this is not that surprising, she gets the schedule. Now, she doesn't show this to me when I'm around, but when I'm not around and she's not self-conscious about my presence, she starts to hang around by the food dish right before the food drops. Within about 6 or 7 minutes of the food dropping, she's on the counter activating the Cat Cam, hanging around the automatic feeder. And I wondered about this. I thought she should know that, and she doesn't seem to do that around me. But when I'm not around, she's definitely aware of that schedule. And that would be nice, and that would be enough. Except I found out she knows something else, and this sort of weirds me out. She remembers that the Cat Cam talks to her with my voice. That in November, when I first used the Cat Cam for CFR 11, it went off one night while I was in my hotel room alone. So I immediately activated it, and there was Minerva by the Cat Cam, and I started talking through it. And she purred and walked up and rubbed her body against the Cat Cam, which surprised me at the time because I wasn't sure if they can hear through that Cat Cam without a lot of background mechanical interference, that humans don't hear a lot of the static and all that. Our ears are not sharp enough. But we believe, as far as I know, that cats and dogs can hear a lot more coming across that transmitter. They hear static and mechanical noises. Be that as it may, last November, Minerva recognized my voice on the Cat Cam speaker and came up to it and rubbed against it. And then my son, back in November, also came into the bathroom and talked to me through the Cat Cam. And Minerva was present. What she was thinking was hard to know. Well, when I looked at the Cat Cams from the beginning of this month, when we were at CFR 11, Minerva actually was walking up to the Cat Cam and rubbing against it and trilling the way she does to greet me. And to my shock, I realized Minerva just somehow accepts that the cat cam is me in some form. What she is thinking is simply not coherent to me. I have no idea how she understands this, whether she thinks I'm in the cat cam or hiding below the cat cam, maybe in the cabinet below it, or what she thinks is going on. Or here's another shocker, she doesn't think at all about it. She simply accepts that my voice comes through the cat cam, so she should address the cat cam the way she addresses me. But Minerva's last word, apart from the fact that I'm totally creeped out by this, is, I know what you're doing, and I'm in on it, and I'm cool with it. She was not at all distressed, but she did seem to be asking the cat cam to talk back to her. Now, the other great thing, while I was at CFR 11.5, I found out on 2 occasions my son walked into the bathroom where the cat cam was, and he talked to it. And when he talked to it, she meows in the background. He tilts the camera towards her. She's across the room on the apron of the bathtub. She jumps off, she comes across, she jumps on the counter with him, and she begins to approach the cat cam. So I now know that Minerva has some understanding that the cat cam is a means of communicating with me. Now, she saw my son trying to call me. My son literally got on it and yelled my name like, Mom, can you hear me? But it did not trigger for some reason, or I missed the trigger on my smartwatch. I'm really surprised I would miss that, because usually it buzzes and makes quite a stir on your wrist. However, Minerva, in my mind, unquestionably is aware that that cat cam is somehow connected to me. This to me seems quite miraculous. So Minerva's last word, I know what you guys are doing, you humans. I'm up to this. I know what you're doing. Minerva understands that she should pay attention to these things because, wait for it, we are a community and she is an active part of my community. And when we act in the best interests of the community, we are preserving and protecting the individual as well. Having said that, everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I, and possibly Minerva, will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.